All right, so finally was able to get around to painting the wolf deer panda hybrid. So gonna try a new format of recording this. So I recorded myself painting it and I lost the first part. I didn't get it recorded, so you're starting from my drawing step here. So I already got the kind of like the rough drawing down underneath, and now I am just going straight into painting. So the idea that I was kind of thinking that I had behind all of this, so I was going to have it be sort of like the body of a panda bear, and later on I bring up the reference I used for the drawing part, but you could see I basically just used the body of a panda bear, but I wanted to kind of have some of the markings of a wolf and then just his two tiny little antlers up on top of its head. So that's kind of what I ended up doing. And the style that I'm going with, I'm just painting straight on onto the canvas, pretty much all on one layer. The line art is on one layer, the background's on a layer, and then the whole painting is on its own other separate layer. I've been experimenting lately with kind of trying a more painterly approach, and so I'm not bad at it, but I'm not super good at it yet, and so it kind of takes me a while to figure it out. So I didn't want to spend too long on this video today, so all in all I probably spent about 2 or 3 hours painting it, and I didn't want to spend too much longer. So it's a little loose, kind of a speed paint at the end there, and it's not super tight and refined, but I'm hoping that as I practice with this style a little more, I can start to get things more and more refined, while still keeping that painterly sort of style as I start to clean things up a bit. So the deal was, I have this wolf over here on the right that I brought up for reference, and this is what I'm using to kind of model the pattern after. I want to add a little bit more reddish brown to mine than what's in the reference photo, but for the most part I'm kind of trying to emulate that patterning while still also simultaneously keeping the panda pattern as well. So I have the big black eye circles, and I want his arms to also be black, even though that's not how the wolf is, but I want it to still have some of those things that help you feel like it's a wolf while still having that sort of lazy panda feel to it. So where I'm at now. In case you didn't know this, I always start my backgrounds with some sort of a mid-tone. When you start on a white background, it makes all of your values look way too dark, and when you start on a dark background, it can do the same thing but to opposite effect. So I try and start a mid-tone, and I wanted the feeling of this to be kind of oranges, yellows, a little bit of greens, pretty subdued color scheme. So I went with a little bit of a warm gray for that backdrop. I'm blocking in all the major colors and shapes here, and keep in mind to use your full value range here. You could see that his eyes, before I put in the actual eyeballs themselves, you probably would have said that they're black, but if you look, the eyeballs themselves in the middle of the big black fur patches are even darker. So make sure that using your full range, you don't need to go all the way black to make something look black. As you can see here with the arms as well, I'm adding another layer, or another pass of even darker coloring to really make it feel like it has some form. But overall, even though it's not pure black, it reads as black because of the colors around it. Alright, so working my way around the image, really what we're trying to focus on is the lighting and the color scheme when you paint like this. The line art is going to disappear. You're not really using the line art to carry the image, it's mostly the painting itself. And so you're thinking about form. For example, you can see how I painted the top of the nose and the sides of the muzzle to really help define its shape. Really helps us get an idea of what shape is this guy's head, right? Start brushing in some of the body, getting some different color variation in there. Okay. And then trying to bring that down a little bit, blend it in a little bit so it's not quite so stark. Once again, we don't want it to just be like a panda, and we don't want it to just be like a wolf. We kind of want it to be a mix of both. And I kind of felt like I felt like I would be able to do more justice to each of the animals if I only did 2 instead of 3. So that's what I'm going to do for the next one. Go ahead and leave in the comments first 2 animals from different people. So only comment 1 animal. You can comment 1 animal, and the first 2 comments that request an animal for the next video, I will I'll do another one, and I'll mix them up and do another painting as well. I think we're going to stick with this painting style for a little bit, see how it goes. I don't know, we'll see. I kind of like it. So, yeah, first 2 could be anything you want. It could be, you know, an insect, crustacean, a fish, reptile, mammal, bird, whatever you want, dinosaur, prehistoric mammal, right? Anything you want. Maybe try and stay away from like prehistoric or fantasy things like dragons and griffins and stuff like that, because it's kind of what we're creating here by mixing these animals up is fantasy creatures. So, but yeah, anything that's ever lived, any animal that's ever lived, go ahead and throw it in the comments. I'd love to see what creatures we can mash up with. But yeah, this, I think overall by the end, I like how this one turned out. I think if I would have been happier if I spent more time on it and rendered it a little bit more tightly, but it turns out okay. All right, so you can see I put a little bit more shading in the arms, brighten things up a little bit, and finished the body and stuff, and now added a back leg there too, you can see a little bit ago. Now we're onto this tree. I didn't want this to be the focal point, so it's really is pretty rough, as I'm just kind of trying to block in the form and getting some real rough texture, getting that ambient occlusion around where his face is kind of mashed up against the tree itself, as well as his arm, where the shadows are going to get a lot darker as they get at that point. You can see that I'm keeping pretty warm with most of my colors. I'm not really going anywhere too far into the red or too far into the blue. We're staying basically between the orange and the blue-green on our color spectrum, and keeping things pretty desaturated. If I need something to feel cooler, I'd rather desaturate it than bring it into the blues for this painting, because I want it to all stay within that color range. So I wanted the antlers to really contrast with the rest of it, and so that they didn't just blend in and disappear. So I did those a pretty light color so that you could see them very clearly, and just adding a little bit of shadows and highlights on those to really pop them out a little bit more. All right. You can see, especially when it's up close, that the whole thing is pretty loose, pretty painterly. You can see almost every single individual brush stroke, and that might be what you're going for. I still think that I could have maintained that while tightening it up a little bit more, but that's all right. We're on to the background now, and I kind of want to just do a really simple sort of suggestive idea of some trees. I would say that backgrounds aren't my strong point. I mostly just for a long time focused on creature designs and kind of like a blank slate without a background, but I've realized that I need to add a little bit more background and get a little bit better at that. So I'm going to try and do something a little bit more here, kind of like an aspen tree in the background. Experimented with adding some leaves, and after putting them down realized, nah, I don't like that. It looks tacky, it looks fake, and it's also not really how I want the colors to come out. Tried putting a little bit of green in the trees themselves. Turned out okay. I tone it down a little bit later, put some green undergrowth for the floor and darken that up a little bit. Okay. I ended up trying to put some moss sort of stuff on the log, but I decided that I kind of liked it the way it was, so I took most of that off, let it be pretty simple. And just working up the shadows a little bit more. I tried putting some like a little bit more detail in the fur on his belly, but it didn't match the rest of the rendering, so I kind of took it out and just, you know, add a little bit of shading down there at the bottom, because yeah, it didn't feel like it was working very well, so I ended up scrapping that. Once again, if I had more time and I rendered the whole thing, I might have done that and tried to make it work a little harder, but instead I just painted it out. All right. Hopefully the wolf shows through. I see it, but maybe it's just because I painted it, but I show my wife, she's like, where's the wolf part? But I mean, the wolf part is in the patterning of the fur and stuff like that, so it'd be cool if pandas actually looked like that. in real life. All right, so it went by really fast. What I did was create an overlay layer over the background, and I'm adjusting the balance, the color balance of everything, the saturation, all this stuff to really help the background be a background and not something super distracting. I still want to have a little bit more detail, so I decided to make all these trees aspen trees so that it would kind of tie into the more deer wolf environment instead of where you might find a panda with like bamboo forests. Now it seems like he's in more of a North American environment, I think. So yeah, just adjusting the contrast, getting those colors just right, and really getting everything down so that it looks good. And I think the end result ends up being pretty cool. I'm pretty satisfied with it. So anyways, like I said, first two animals left by different people in the comments will be our next one. And if you like this video and want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can be notified when I have new videos out. In addition to that, I'm doing live streams every Friday at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so be sure to check that out. We'll be doing another one this Friday where I'll be answering questions and painting different stuff. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. I had a good time painting this. Can't wait to see what the next suggestion is. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.